I'm Huon Hooke, and this is The Real Review. The wine we're tasting today is 3 Drops Cabernet Franc 2018, which comes from the Great Southern region of Western Australia. So the story of 3 Drops, it's not a long story. They didn't produce their first wine until 2001. And this is a Cabernet Franc. It's their first single varietal Cabernet Franc, which they normally put the Cabernet Franc into a Bordeaux blend. They still make the Bordeaux blend, but now they're making a straight Cabernet Franc as of 2018. The winery is represented by Joanne Bradbury, who's the public face of 3 Drops, and her father migrated from England back in the 70s. I think he was a submarine captain in the British Navy, the Royal Navy. And he retired to be a farmer in the Great Southern of Western Australia. And Joanne came along. She eventually, they had a farm there. She eventually married someone called Bradbury, and they decided to put in a vineyard and make wine. And she's put 3 Drops on the map very effectively, actually. She's a good marketer. Where does the name 3 Drops come from? Well, they have vineyard, they have an olive plantation, and so the 3 Drops are wine, olive oil, and the water that is necessary to grow both of those crops. So it's kind of a cute name. It's distinctive. It stays in your memory. So what does it taste like, this 3 Drops Cabernet Franc? Well, the first thing you notice is this lovely bright colour with a lot of purple in it, and it's not a particularly dense colour. You can see through it. It's a medium-bodied wine. It's not particularly heavy wine. But the big thing about Cabernet Franc to me is the lovely fragrance. It's got a particular Cabernet nose, like it's a similar kind of nose to Cabernet Sauvignon, but it's more fragrant, more crushed mulberry leaves, if anything. Raspberries, red currants, and very lifted, very aromatic. And the wine is medium-bodied. It's not heavy, not full-bodied. And the tannin is quite tight and gives it a nice firm grip to the finish, which will help it stand up in the company of food. Good length to it. Lovely flavour. Berries. The fruit really does the talking in this wine. There's no oak sticking. There is oak there, of course, but it's not obvious in the flavour. And how did we rate this wine? Well, we gave it 92 points, which is a strong silver ribbon. It was rated number 2 out of 22 different 2018 Cabernet Franc wines, which we tasted from that vintage, from across Australia. And it's a top rank wine. And we suggested drinking it from now until 2028. So no problem for it going for at least another decade, but probably the peak drinking would be between now and 2028. And the food match. Well, we asked the winemaker Rob Deletti if what he would recommend to serve with this wine. Rob Deletti, of course, is a famous winemaker from the Great Southern. He works in his family's Castle Rock estate, which is not terribly far from the 3 Drops vineyard, which is at Mount Barker. He is one of the gun winemakers from down that region. He recommends a moussaka, so a dish of Greek lamb with eggplant, vegetarian, even a vegetarian moussaka you could have with this wine. But frankly, I'd have the real thing with lamb. It's a really good idea, I think, because that's not a particularly strongly flavoured dish, and this is not a particularly heavy wine. It's a medium-bodied wine, so an excellent combination. So, cheers.